Hello and welcome to Campaign Comrades, your favorite leftist gaming channel. We are three of the comrades here today to do our reactionary video towards the Switch 2 announcement, the Switch 2 Direct that happened earlier at the time of the release. It'll be last week. We have plenty of thoughts. We want to run through hardware, software, the whole pricing and tariff drama that's going around, the general uncertainty.
Folks,
what's going to happen?
Will gamers change the world,
unwoke.
folks?
Is it woke? That's the biggest part.
You know, as the great Frank Herbert once said, the treats must flow. And if the treats aren't going to flow, are we going to see a consumer-led uprising? A consumerist jihad instead of the Butlerian jihad.
That would be so funny if that's what happens. That would be perfect.
I was having this discussion earlier, and I guess like we can preempt the tariff bit here that, you know, general cost of living things in, you know, our kind of late stage capitalist society don't push the needle that much because we are so, you know, atomized and alienated that, you know, we got to just keep living, right? That what am I going to do if, you know, the cost of eggs is skyrocketed, if the cost of gas is out of here? I still got to get to work. I still got to do all these things. But if the treats stop, that's when things get real, because that's the only way that we are able to, you know, square the circle of the contradictions inherent to empire, to living in empire, right? The only way that we have to counteract the deep anxieties that we hold that are a result of our shared precarity is, can I buy that new treat? You know, can I buy the Nintendo Switch 2 to forget all the fucking troubles that I have in my life, all the pains, all the stresses, all those anxieties? It's dependent upon what can I consume. And when we can't consume anymore, that's when empire starts to crumble. Is when we no longer have the bomb to soothe our discomforts.
Illusion is shattered.
It really is. So I don't know if I think it's just cope for the most part. I still think that most people will just continue on, but like, I don't know. I think Andrew, you sent this meme, right? That the next we'll just call it the next attempt is going to be done by someone wearing the Triforce t-shirt. All right, so we'll get to tariffs and the knock-on impact it is going to have on the Switch 2 at the end, because we also want to just talk about pricing and the drama that surrounded pricing before Liberation Day,
I just want to say, like, actually thinking about it, like, if I were to bet, I think the kid who tried in July probably has that t-shirt.
very much.
You're right.
If he did have it, it's probably riddled with bullets at this point. All right, so let's just jump into the hardware. What did we think of the hardware unveiling, the final kind of confirmation about specs and the different capabilities of the system, and, you know, how it was presented?
I'm going to start off with saying I was actually slightly impressed at the stats. I wasn't expecting it to have 4K 60 as an output, so that was surprising to me. The one thing I want to ask you two about, because I haven't seen much about it, and I'm going to admit I did not watch the Direct, I've just read summaries. What's the battery situation?
It's worse than the Switch 1. That's what I was expected. Yeah, I don't know how bad. Like, my barometer for what would be acceptable is it still better than the Steam Deck? Because the Steam Deck is kind of the lowest I will take with battery life, whereas, you know, a decent gaming session.
Comparison for me is going to be how long handheld can run Elden Ring versus the Steam Deck. Steam Deck caps out at about an hour and a half.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, and
really, hour and a half.
The
for
Steam
Elden
Deck,
Ring.
Steam Deck gets farther for me because I generally use it for indie games and lower spec, less demanding games. So I can get longer sessions out of it, but we're still talking.
Yeah, like, I can get 6-7 hours out of Final Fantasy 3.
Yeah, I like when I was playing Citizen Sleeper. When I was playing like Citizen Sleeper for my replay for the podcast, and then playing Citizen Sleeper 2, I would get like 2.5 hours and still have about 30% battery left, so it could probably go a little bit more. Probably could go, 3.5, maybe.
It's expected
Pushing
that the
it.
Switch 2's battery life would decrease from the Switch just based on increased resolution of the handheld screen, increased frame rate on the handheld screen, just higher internal spec overall from the CPU to the, I think it's actually technically an APU.
Yeah,
Just in general.
I'm not surprised by it being worse.
Also,
it's
the size
a
of the
question
screen.
of how much worse.
Yeah. The screen increase in size is actually a big driver with the addition of the pixels, the frame rate, and then the extra near inch of screen real estate. You're looking at quite a large difference in power consumption in handheld mode.
Yeah. Not as a huge deal to me. I'm a predominantly docked Switch user, which I think some of the changes to the dock are pretty cool. Like that the dock will have kind of the capability for upscaling. I don't know. The fact that it has a fan in it is kind of, I don't know. Just seeing the visual.
It's a small little quality of life feature that's nice. That means you can run longer sessions on your Switch in docked mode and not have to worry about it getting a little spicy.
Which I've never like gone up to my Switch while playing and to see how hot it is after playing Xenoblade 1 or 2 for 5 hours and being like, oh my, I could cook an egg on this bad boy. The overall biggest reveal for
camera
hardware implications is the game chat function. We know what the C button is. Matt was correct. It's the chat function.
Yes.
As they show it, I don't know if there's like some unspoken partnership with Discord that they're not talking about, because the windows, it's Discord. It's just Discord. It even has like the windows are shaped the same way. It even has the same green outline when somebody's speaking. I was half expecting as I was watching, I was like, are they going to announce like a partnership with Discord here?
Yeah, but if it was Discord, it would be a D button, not a C button.
No, that's why I think it's like some sort of like back end deal. So like it's that they haven't.
You just using their platform, their hosting.
That's what it looked like.
I mean, Discord is in the process of like wealth accumulation. So I'm sure if Nintendo approached them with a deal for like, hey, we want to use your platform because we don't want to generate our own like chat software. Like here's, I don't know, $10 million. Take it.
But that couples in with the microphone that's built in on the camera that supposedly should work from a distance, so no headsets integrated into your TV audio, and then the camera that can either be purchased for about $50, or if you have another USB,
any USB-C camera will plug in, which is cool. It's funny because this rumor had been going around for a while. We've known for a little while through patents that it was going to have a top-mounted USB-C port, and people were going back and forth because there was a patent about a camera capability. So people were expecting it to be like the Game Boy camera, where it would mount to the top of the unit.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, there was other wild speculation.
Which would totally fuck up my media shelf thing, because my Switch is done long ways. I don't have it facing me in that direction. That would totally fuck up my setup.
Yeah, no,
I have a camera on my media shelf there that I would consider replacing if the specs for that camera are decent, are better than the fucking Logitech one that I've got right now. $50 if it's a decent webcam is not bad. It's really not bad.
I have a question. I thought the reason Nintendo previously did not have a chat was because of how their online peer-to-peer shit worked. Am I misremembering that?
The primary function for why they tended to avoid voice chat was that they were, generally speaking, trying to avoid the toxicity involved with people being able to flame each other in chat.
Getting called the F word while you're playing Splatoon does not fall under their kind of corporate image.
Yeah. It's why for a while it was all done through their app, because that could be, relatively speaking, parentally controlled. Where a parent could have a 7-year-old and be like, no, you can't download apps to your phone.
There is supposedly connectivity to a parental control service on their app that they can
increase the parental control ability.
Yeah, do you think we'll use the chat function?
I mean, if it works and it's seamless enough, it's slightly easier than having one earbud in my ear with my phone on Discord.
Right. That's what I was thinking, that if it's not picking up feedback from gameplay and everybody else's voices, coming out of my speakers, and I can just talk at the microphone and people can hear me clearly, that if we boot up Mario Kart World or Mario Party, that, yeah, I think it looks fine. I don't feel the need to do the camera bit.
No, and there's also
I don't hate the idea, but
the new Pro controllers have a headphone jack, which means you could just get a regular headset and plug into your controller, similar to regular consoles at this point.
Does it not have Bluetooth? It won't hook up to Bluetooth headphones?
The current Switch has Bluetooth, so I would anticipate Switch 2 to also have Bluetooth. It took Switch 1 like 2 years to get Bluetooth turned on. I would assume at this point they're standard with it. I was just giving the idea that if you have the Pro controller, you can just plug in if you've got a wired standard headset with a mic.
Yeah.
The other thing was
the thing I'm most excited about is new Pro controllers.
Dude, I've become a sicko for fucking back buttons. Jeez.
Back paddles are the only way.
I'll pay $70 for the back paddles. That's
I'll also pay $70 because it's black and white coated.
I do like it's more gray. It's more of a kind of a soft
like a silvery
gray.
White.
Yeah. I do like that color scheme. And
I said it in the chat. They're going to get me so hard with limited edition Pro controllers again.
Man. That's why I maybe kind of want to wait till there's that
Xenoblade Chronicles 4 Pro controller going to hit so hard.
Yeah, I maybe kind of want to wait to get a Pro controller until there's a special edition one. Yeah, so the other major hardware thing was the confirmation of the mouse functionality, which from all the hands-on reporting that I've seen, they've shared similar concerns that I mentioned. I don't know if you guys remember back in an older podcast.
Ergonomics.
It was it's about the ergonomics of the differential of the right, what would be the right and left mouse button being basically the right one is considerably lower than the other one, and it being a little narrow is a little bit odd. But they said most people have been confident enough that if it gets enough utilization, that it's something that could be you could learn to adjust. What I think is cool about it is the reporting that the transition between control schemes is completely seamless. That you don't have to fiddle in menus to go to mouse and keyboard, to keyboard versus, split Joy-Cons. That people playing Metroid are I, have the left Joy-Con in my hand as normal, using it to move or whatever, and then camera controls I've got as a mouse. When put on the mouse face, it disconnects the joystick on the right Joy-Con and functions as a mouse, but then you pick it up and it automatically recognizes it.
Yeah, which would be an implementation forward of the internal gyroscopes, essentially.
Yes.
It's one of the cool features about it is it definitely opens them up to even more. So they're bringing forward the GameCube as part of Nintendo Switch Online, which means thinking forward, at some point the Wii will potentially be on that potential Switch Online board. And mouse control gives you one additional way to emulate Wii motion controls and the Wii aiming.
Do you think that they would actually put Wii Sports, or more importantly, Wii Sports Resorts on the online thing when they still have Switch Sports already existing? Would they do that?
I think so.
I mean, that would be goated. I would love to get back to. I would love to do some Wii Sports Resorts. All right, so that's I think any other standout things from the hardware side of things.
That the new Joy-Con controller dock also has back buttons.
Really?
It does.
I didn't see that.
The base?
The one that, the magnet one that it'll be, that just magnetizes in? Wow. Okay, I didn't see that. I did not notice that at all. That completely slipped past me.
That's sweet.
Again,
it might
a bit of a game changer.
Might not be the one that comes with the unit. It could potentially be the charging one, but I know that one of the two has back buttons on it now, or both.
Okay.
When I saw that discussed.
All right, I'm going to have to look further into that one.
Back buttons are the future, folks.
You already mentioned the GameCube online announcement, and that was one of the software announcements for the Direct.
That's huge. GameCube is the generation of games where people start to get real nostalgic for, because we finally hit a generation of games that are, relatively speaking, perfectly competently playable to modern standards versus like I can play Nintendo 64 games because I played Nintendo 64 games as a child. So I can bring myself back to being 7 years old, sitting in my bedroom playing with the Alien controller on a 16-inch box TV playing Star Fox. But I think GameCube is that generation where I think everyone is going to get more usage and playtime out of it, between things like Wind Waker, Pokemon Coliseum, Luigi's Mansion, potentially.
Yeah, my question is, do I play Wind Waker through the non-HD Wind Waker through the GameCube app, or I have it emulated on my Switch, or on my Steam Deck, but haven't touched it? Do I do that? Do I do the HD version emulated?
I mean, I'd wait to at least find out what they're doing with the game, because they said it was going to run better. It'll be interesting to see if they apply the quality of life updates from the remaster into it.
I kind of doubt it.
Yeah, but you're wrong, though. Because if you think about how the Switch Online services worked, they tend to have base version and then special version. And the special version has quality of life updates.
Well, I know that they'll at least have things like rewind and I think save states.
Yeah. But that's a lot of the Switch Online titles will have like Super Metroid, and then it's like Super Metroid DX. And it'll have a bunch of different quality of life improvements.
I'll admit that I have not gone far enough into the online catalogs. That's why I figured I would chime in as someone
who has used Switch Online probably more than anyone in this.
I've used it for things like I played Minish Cap in its entirety from, when we did back in the day when we did our Zelda episode. I played that on Switch Online, and it was great. I had a great experience there. The simple things like save states and rewind make a huge difference.
Rewind makes some of those old games considerably playable.
Oh my god, just like a wild, ridiculous platforming fuck up and just, rewind and like nothing ever happened. Yeah, so GameCube Online, be interested to see how those games turn out.
Exclusive to Switch 2. Switch 1 will not be getting GameCube on Switch Online.
Why is that? What do you think the reasoning is for that?
Incentive,
I've seen
maybe?
Various reasons discussed. There's stuff around the GameCube emulator not running perfectly on Switch. My personal belief is because it's going to be too big. I think because GameCube games are the generation where you start to get to a couple gigabytes, 1, 2, 3 gigabytes per game, where you're probably going to have to at least have the option to download games individually. And the Switch with its lower tier base storage.
That's one thing back in the hardware things that we didn't talk about, is that it has... Do you remember what's the difference in base level storage? Is it like 8 times the storage?
I think it's 256.
256.
And what was the base Switch?
The original Switch launched at 32.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
And then there was a small panic for people initially thinking it wasn't going to support micro SD cards. It does. It just supports a new standard of SD card with micro SD Express, which is a faster memory variant.
But that'll still work with prior cards, won't it?
Old SD cards will not work, or not compatible. Not compatible.
That's not a backwards compatible.
No, you need an SD Express because it needs to be a faster communication speed to mirror that of an SD.
Okay, gotcha. It's interesting.
Which Nintendo already released back in the Switch 1 days, a whole bunch of specifically branded SD cards, so I would expect them to do the same thing here again.
And the ones that they showed, they've got the Mario symbol on. Yeah, so we got GameCube Online. We're getting enhanced versions of Switch 1 games.
In various levels, too. There's paid enhanced, which would be games that have specific additional features added into them. There's free enhanced, which are games that were just bumped up in frame rate or resolution. And then there's an additional layer to it where some Switch 1 games will just run better because it's a higher clocked hardware.
Yeah, so, and then you've got, the only 2 that have been announced so far are both Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, will be available at no extra cost for Switch Online subscribers.
Which makes sense given how they handled the expansion pack on Switch 1, where they threw you a whole bunch of DLCs included with it. So it's just another way of enhancing off of that.
We got some pricing indication on what those are going to look like. We'll talk about those at the end.
So, does that mean you have to download the enhanced version, essentially? Is that how that's going to work?
Think of it like the PS5 upgrades to PS4 games.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it would require downloading a patch.
It's very similar. It's the whole thing is very similar, which is why the people who are making a stink about those, it does not make sense to me. It's like, unless you have been making the same complaints, which there are admittedly some who have complained about how Sony has handled that, and some are free and some weren't, and there was inconsistencies with how they handled it. Like, Matt, do you remember the Horizon? I think it was Horizon Forbidden West was the one that they're like, yeah, it's going to be free, but then, oh wait, no, we actually are going to charge for the upgrade. And then people made such a stink about it. They're like, yeah, okay, well, we will for a limited time or something go back.
I don't think it was Forbidden West, because Forbidden West launched as a PS5 game.
Yeah, so no, okay, so it was Forbidden West, but it was people who could buy like a PS4 copy or something, and maybe it's a weird situation where somebody who owns a PS5 and wants an upgraded version would then buy the PS4 version to upgrade it for free. It would be the rare person who had one system, bought the game, and then decided to upgrade it in that whole window, which was a pretty short window. I do remember it being weird, and I'm like 90% sure it was Forbidden West. But yes, there was like something along the lines with they kind of went back. People have been okay with the basically $10 upgrade path.
In my opinion, and I know I tend to fall more into the line of a Nintendo apologist, if you're adding content to the game on top of enhancing it, I don't care if you make me pay a little bit more for it. If you're just increasing the frame rate, then free is probably better.
Free is always better, right? But, who's gonna argue that?
But at the same, like, here, I'm actually going to just make an argument. I'm a little bit surprised at myself, but I they are doing labor. If they're making a legitimate change, they're doing some work. Like $10 is not entirely unreasonable, particularly because it is backwards compatible. If it weren't backwards compatible and that were like the only way to continue to play these games, then I think free, there needs to be a free version.
I've seen
the fact that you have backwards compatibility.
I've seen some of the side-by-side comparisons of Breath of the Wild, Switch 2 enhanced versus Switch 1, and it was particularly they picked one of the worst areas to show it too. They picked
rain and fog, and I noticed that.
They picked near the Deku tree in Forbidden Woods.
Yeah, Korak Forest runs like dog shit,
and it looks so much better on Switch 2.
But also, it's just like I was like, wow, Switch 1 looks super fuzzy. Like this is it's a considerable resolution pickup. HDR support is pretty impressive there as well. So
ray tracing and DLSS.
Yep.
That's right. Yep.
That's capable. We haven't really seen much about it.
What I would anticipate is as the generation moves on with Switch 2, DLSS to be used to get more intensive third-party games running acceptably. But I mean, third-party support is kicking out of the gate.
That's the one thing that I maybe am a little bit critical of, and it ties into part of the discussion on pricing and where I think this is going to land, is that they seem to almost market this machine as something for the quote-unquote hardcore gamer, right, versus the casual, which is what made the Switch 1 so successful, was its appeal to a casual and a budget-conscious gamer. So this in
150 million units, you do think that you hit at least a couple 10, 20 million people in there who would consider themselves to be hardcore.
Right, no, but that's what I'm saying though, is for the hardcore gamer, which it's a term I don't like. I cringe at it.
You said it yourself. It's here now.
I have
PC Master Race.
I have no better word for it, but I use it.
Not ultra wide, 240 hertz, I send it back.
But I consider us in that area. We all own Switches, but we don't play quote unquote third party games there.
Speak for yourself.
There are occasional ones. Yes, I played Unicorn Overlord on this. Technically, that's a third party game. I could have played that on PlayStation, but I have a Switch for the exclusives. I have it for Nintendo first party. I have it for the games that I can't play otherwise. I would never choose to play Elden Ring or Cyberpunk on the Switch or the Switch 2.
My initial purchase of the Switch was generally around the idea that I could play these games handheld. So I have a lot of double dipped games on Switch specifically for the handheld capability.
The portability was a huge draw, absolutely. But the Switch 2 is entering into a completely different market than the Switch 1 was. Whereas if I want something portable, my preference is going to be PC Steam Deck. It's a game that I can, again, I have the same option for portability that will run equally, or if not better.
It's going to be more portable overall than Steam Deck. It's just smaller. Easier to fit into a backpack.
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah, because
I'm speaking from the perspective of someone who travels with his Steam Deck on flights and stuff. And the Steam Deck case does take up a considerable amount of backpack real estate compared to the Switch case. And the Switch 2 is bigger than the Switch 1, but it still maintains that thinness that allows the case to be a lot more pancake.
Yeah, I'd be interested in what the weight is actually.
I've seen complaints from people doing hands-on saying that the increased Joy-Con size and weight makes it harder for people with smaller hands, but I'm not going to have that complaint because I've got big meaty claws and I am not a 4'8" manic pixie girlfriend.
Yeah.
Ben, I actually think you make a fair point, and it's why I am not as committed to buying a Switch 2 when it releases, as someone who enjoys Nintendo exclusives, but I don't get FOMO for many of them.
As he enjoys Nintendo exclusives, has never played Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, 3X.
Yeah,
well, that's what I said. It's like,
I want to buy it right away. We'll get to the pricing shit that may change that, but I want to buy one so I can play Xenoblade X at a better, more stable, technical state.
Yeah, see, I don't have that, and part of the value proposition for me, at least, was definitely the portability when I first got a Switch. But now with the Portal, to your point, I don't care to play any of these third-party games. That's why when the Blood Husks, which I think we'll probably talk a little bit about.
The Blood Husks, I love it. Is that the Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive? The Husk Bloods, the Blood Husks, yeah, Duskbloods, yeah,
Duskbloods. But Duskbloods is one that makes me want to buy this. But I think you're right that this is selling this as a third-party game engine is still, I think, probably a little bit of a mistake. It's not the place to necessarily focus.
Is they're trying to show the fact that they're getting third-party support out the gate. Which one absolutely did not get third-party support as it started? Because there was a lot of, unease around, the Wii U was a massive failure. Will the Switch 1 get a user base that warrants us to build a downgraded version of our game for the console? And I think what you're seeing right now is Nintendo saying, look, third parties are supporting us, which means if you're someone who you only get one console,
Yeah, it's a better argument there.
You have the chance to be able to still play some of those third-party games alongside the Switch titles.
I don't want to jump the gun because I do want to give us space to potentially talk a little bit about a couple of the games. But the tariff problem makes that whole... Basically, the Switch 2 could not be releasing at a worse time because that whole marketing is to the quote-unquote budget-conscious gamer who only has the resources to buy one system. And so, of course, that's great news for them to have, this third-party support. It's now, I can play Elden Ring, in a decent fashion. I can play Cyberpunk in a acceptable manner.
Play Split Fiction with my girlfriend on the one console where seated couch co-op really makes sense.
And so that exists, and those people do exist. I don't think that they make up a huge percentage of the market.
I think the percentage will be increasing, as you said, with the pricing info that we'll talk about, because I think everything is going to be affected by that pricing.
I think so too, but that's what I'm just saying. It is launching at the worst time, whereas the next generation of other consoles is not happening for a while. According to
Xbox, 1.5 years.
Literally out of sight, out of mind. Don't care, doesn't count, not real. I wonder how much money Phil and I don't even remember the name of the Xbox Nadella.
Gaming
Microsoft
flip to Trump for tariffing, outside made hardware. Xbox is going to be the cheap one.
Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to... I think it's all of their planned marketing has gone to shit, as has been proven with the backtracking. But again, we'll get to that. Any of the new games that we really wanted to talk about. Mario Kart World looks fucking sick. I have to say, it looks awesome.
And all of the hands-ons have basically called it the killer app. And of course, it's going to be the launch title that they're hoping to drive a majority of sales through. No pun intended.
Yeah, it looks awesome, I have to say. Like, I like the kind of open world nature of it. I like that you can drive from one race to the other. Of course,
you get to play as Cow from Moo Moo Meadows.
As Moo Moo, yeah. The fact that you can fucking rail grind, 10 out of 10, game of the year, absolute cinema. Can't be better, can't beat it. You know, it looks sick. It looks great. Everything about it looks great, except for that fucking price tag.
People who are complaining about the price before are going to be really complaining about the price after.
Matt, Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah. Let's just talk about, I mean, I said it before on the podcast, Metroid Prime 4 just makes Game Freak look so much worse every time it gets shown. we're talking about a Switch game, a Switch 1 game that will be playable / enhanced on Switch 2 that will have options for 4K 60 docked, 1080 120 dock. That's crazy coming from Nintendo. Nintendo don't do that shit.
The fact that that 120 frames per second was in the same, headspace as a Nintendo console blew my fucking mind.
I mean, it's 120 hertz on the handheld screen, which means that when you're playing handheld, you have the option for 720 120 and 1080 60. That's crazy. And I mean, it's Metroid Prime, so they can do a lot to optimize the game, keep certain areas unloaded, because it's not an open world fully game like a Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, where you need to have the entire fucking map loaded constantly and sniper lobsters in the distance. But no, Prime 4 looks incredible. And the announcement of GameCube Switch Online only further pushes the idea of, like, that's why we didn't get Prime 2 and 3. Because Prime 2 is probably going to be on GameCube, and I'm pretty sure Prime 3 was Wii exclusive. So there's the chance there where Prime 3 might be a candidate for being a, like, Skyward Sword style release.
Yeah, like a straight up, a straight up,
like port, a straight up solo launch with reworked motion controls.
Yeah. I actually want to play, after playing Dynasty Warriors, I want to play Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment.
Dude, the Hyrule Warriors games are pretty cool.
No, I'm not going to go back to any of the old ones. I will play this new one.
I would say if you were to go back to the old one, just go back to Age of Calamity.
Yeah.
Because the first Hyrule Warriors game was originally like a 3DS title.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
I played that on 3DS, and boy howdy, let me tell you.
Drag X Drive, the wheelchair Rocket League.
What?
Yeah.
That was basically...
I missed that one.
It's basically a mouse function tech demo.
Hilarious.
It does not look like a full or real game. And it looks really cumbersome and clunky, where you're using two mouses, both as nice
to,
at
like,
the same time to push to simulate the pushing of the wheels. I don't know. That does not look very good. Kirby Air Riders. I'm all in on the Kirby.
Is that offensive?
Or is it representation? I don't know.
Yeah. Is your friend who's wheelchair bound going to have an advantage over you? Probably.
Donkey Kong Bonanza.
Yeah, interesting to launch with a Donkey Kong title this time. I think the Switch 1 kind of slowly brought about a Donkey Kong resurgence with Tropical Freeze and a couple other Donkey Kong games that they brought forward. Country Returns, I think, released in January. I think it fits the niche of the Mario, missing a Mario game other than Kart.
I gotta say, I probably won't be playing it just because people...
You don't go bananas.
Well, people calling it's Donkey Kong Odyssey or whatever, and I did not like Mario Odyssey at all, so... can kind of miss me with that. Cool, destructible environments, always fun, whatever.
We have to talk about Husk Bloods.
I have no attachment to Donkey Kong as a character or franchise, so...
Or what did you call Blood Husks?
Blood Husks. Completely flipped, wrong words and completely flipped around, yeah. So, yeah, for new From Software game, Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive, The Dusk Bloods, launching sometime in 2026. a PvPvE multiplayer game, 8 players. You're all trying to get the first blood, whatever the fuck that means. Whatever the fuck that means. What do we think? What do we think? I mean, again, as Matt texted in the group chat yesterday, I trust Michael Zaki to cook.
Let Michael Zaki cook. If Michael Zaki in an interview looks you in the eyes and say, this is something I wanted to make as a passion project, and I approached Nintendo for it, then let the man cook.
Let it. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Like, let him cook. Let him hold you in his palm. He had to look in
the camera and be like, but we're still making single player games, guys. Like, stop like pitchforking because we've made 2 multiplayer games.
Which I'm still excited for Night Rain. I think it's going to be interesting.
There was some funny commentary I saw this morning on the From Software subreddit where people were talking about like the general like state of like, oh my God, they're not making single player games anymore. It's like, dude, like 25 million of you played Elden Ring. Go play Armored Core. Like 3 million people bought that game. Go buy that fucking game and like show your support for more single player games.
Get all three endings. Be a man. Get in.
Cry for AI girlfriend.
Get in the Armored Core, Shinji. It's time.
Yeah. Cry for AI girlfriend. Cry as you kill Walter.
Walter! No, Walter!
Yeah, the Duskbloods though did that game is the one that has me like maybe I am.
Dude, sexy vampire with an AK-47. Let's go.
Yoko Taro Moonhead.
Yeah, let's fucking go.
Like, they really. I was pretty firm on I'm not gonna get one until I saw that. Like, and now I'm like,
Duskblood Switch 2 Pro controller when?
Copyright free Bloodborne. Yeah, I'm excited for that.
I've enjoyed all the memes of the Wojaks with the girl with From Software going to kiss Nintendo.
Yeah. Yeah, Sony sitting in the cuck chair. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you sure? Yes, I want this.
And people were bitching about, Sony buying Kadokawa or, controlling interest in Kadokawa. Like, From Software going Sony exclusive, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, From Software is too big. It's too big. There's no way.
The funniest part about that is it just continues to show how, like, the Sony-Nintendo rivalry has existed for a long time. It seems to be dying down a little bit, especially with, like, Final Fantasy VII Remake being another third party that's coming to Switch. I was kind of laughing because I was like, Final Fantasy VII is coming to everything but Xbox at this point.
But Xbox, yeah.
Because Xbox players don't buy JRPGs. They don't buy Japanese games.
Yeah, good luck trying to tell them that on like any Xbox.
They don't. It's like, show them the fucking data. When they launch them, they don't buy them.
I did that a couple years ago with the stats for Final Fantasy 15, Nier Automata.
They don't fucking buy them. So it's like, sorry. All right, Price and Terrace. Before we get to that, though, we have not talked about the biggest, most exciting game shown at the announcement. The Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which to me is just wild that it's a paid game. That's why I wanted it to serve as a transition.
They didn't announce a price for it, right?
They have not set a price for it, which, like, again, if it's more than $10, it should be free. I am a huge
I agree in the fact that it should be free. I expect it to somewhere be between $10 to $20. Like, I feel like $15.
Because, like, here's the thing. Who's going to fucking buy that? Who's going to... they're like the weirdos.
Yeah,
but I mean...
I'm the weirdo.
In, like, the actual, like, in terms of actual market... an actionable market that does not exist.
But they did this already once with the Switch 1. It was a game called 1-2 Switch, and it was a full $60 game.
And people didn't buy it, did they?
Yeah, which is why I'm saying if it's like $10-20, it'll be at least more palatable. But man, who amongst us hasn't played the cow milking game on 1-2 Switch?
But like this is like a series of tech demos that's also a virtual tour of the physical hardware. And how this is this is an easy win for them to be like, yeah, we're packing it in. I'm a firm believer that every console every new like generation console should have a free tech demo type, try to gamify it as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like, Astro's Playroom, goated, absolutely goated, free of charge.
I mean, the success of Astro's Playroom created Astrobot.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have gotten Astrobot without Astro's Playroom and the response from players to it.
And completely free, because it's an actual game, right? So this is a series of tech demo minigames, and you still have to fucking pay for it. It's like this... That's such a PR fuck up on their end that is only greed. People are talking about, like the pricing of everything that we're seeing is just Nintendo greed. It was not impacted by tariffs at the moment. It was just Nintendo being greedy. That's the one where I'm like, yes, you are absolutely right. I
slightly disagree. I've been doing a lot of research into Japanese imports right now. And a lot of them were anticipating a 10 to 15% tariff. So my money on mostly the console price was that they baked in a 10 to 15% tariff built overall, which would have taken it from $300 to $450.
Yeah, cool,
and then the announced tariff on top of that had them reeling, and they were like, "Holy shit! They went above what we thought they were. We have to rethink." And potentially make U.S. specific pricing versus...
So there's the region-locked Japan version that is $100 cheaper. It's $350 USD.
$330.
Yeah, you're right. It's like $333 something is what the actual conversion.
They specifically did that to protect because the Japanese yen is collapsing, and they need a way to prevent people from... tourists from going to Japan to buy a Switch.
Well, they need every single Japanese person to buy this, to buy the Switch too.
It's specifically region locked too, so you can't go buy one and take it out and be able to play it elsewhere.
Yeah, no, you'd have to jailbreak it, and it is.
You lose access to your chat function.
Does that mean like the people of Japan can't bring their Switch internationally with them?
No, what region locked means is they can only play games that they bought in Japan or on the Japanese e-store. So the Switch 1 made waves initially being a non-region locked console, which meant that I could look at a physical game, a game that launched digitally only in the US but has a physical release in Asia. I could import the physical copy from Asia and put it in my console and play it.
And I have done that with
I know you've done that.
I've got like the Bait and Kaidos remasters. Yeah. On Switch.
I've got the Final Fantasy 7-8 pack.
So as announced, and so everything that we say here is obviously subject to change with the announcement that pre-orders originally set for April 9th in North America have been delayed because of the impact of tariffs. Delayed indefinitely. Release date is still set for June 5th. That has not changed. But we have no information, at least at the time of recording, when and what adjustments will be made to pre-orders. And so the console had been set at $450 base, a $500 bundle with Mario Kart, and then the region locked Japan version. And then we've got games going as high as $80. There was the whole bit about the claim that there would be $90 physical versions. That seems to have been
debunked.
It's at the very least not confirmed.
Exactly. We don't know for certain.
Yeah.
But
so we'll hold off on
that. Came from an unreliable source. So we're going with the assumption that it's $80 across.
Which generally speaking would probably mean, because Donkey Kong was $70, this being $80, I bet you'll see a bigger variety in pricing from $80 to $40, depending on the size and scope of the game.
It's like the Bravely Default remake was $40. It's like that was the bit that I was like so pissed off about. It's like that there is no clear cut understanding of what's going to cost what. We've got we've got upgraded
Bravely Default
Switch 2 versions of the Zelda games. One is 70, one is 80. We've got fucking the Kirby and the Forgotten Realm upgraded version is more expensive than Breath of the Wild. Blows my fucking mind. I do not understand. Yes, it has extra content now, but it's like how that is $80. It's a game I liked. I played it with my nephew. It was fun. It holds a special place for me now. I want to play the upgraded version. But like, are you fucking kidding me? $80 for a game that can be beaten in fucking 5 hours? Are you insane?
You'll be able to play the enhanced version because you'll probably get the DLC or the enhancement through Switch Online expansion.
That was not.
It's not confirmed right now. But you would anticipate them to be adding to it as the.
I would hope so.
What was the Switch Switch cost?
It's, I don't know, 60 bucks. It wasn't the only $70 Switch game was Tears of the Kingdom. So yeah, it was 60 bucks.
What I was going to bring up about Bravely Default is that Bravely Default is also specifically a key code on cart, not game on cart.
Yeah, there were two of those,
which does theoretically lower its like manufacturing costs.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
I have to look at it from a simple. We're running a little long here, but I have to look at it from a simple perspective that the key card on cart, in my opinion, is an upgrade over code in package, because at least you're getting something physical to put into the console rather than just open it up and boop, there's a code.
But what does that do? Right? You know, you still you need an internet connection to download.
Yeah, but that's just to download the game initially. Once you have the game downloaded, you'll be able to play it like you would.
But it's the same. But there's literally no difference then between that and a digital code, other than you need the cartridge.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it feels a little better.
Can you put the cartridge into any console and?
Yeah, it functions like any PS5 game where it's a key activation.
That's
where you can just take the disc out, put it in a different console, and boom, it works there.
Yeah,
because it's literally just an activation code.
I still don't like it.
I'm not saying it's. I still am going to prefer the fact that like Cyberpunk 2077 is full game on 64 gigabyte cartridge. Like I'm still going to prefer the games that are full on cart, but for me at least mentally it feels better to have something to put into the Switch than to open a plastic case and just see a paper that tells me a download code.
Yeah,
that feels like e-waste more to me.
Oh, that's terrible. Just because it's just a waste of plastic. So those upgrade packs that, not part of the Switch Online, have now seen pricing from Nintendo Japan. That's going to be that they range between 1,000 and 2,000 yen, or about 10 or 20 bucks. But yeah, so just final thoughts on the tariff situation and what we expect to happen. And
it's going to cost $600.
It's like how can they justify, like, how is that, again, not a PR nightmare that they're basically going to be like, how I have this, I still think it's probably cope, but I have this feeling that, like, if say I'm a Nintendo executive, if we told them it was $450, we go back and tell them it's now $600. We're done. We're cooked.
Yeah, no, Nintendo's fucked. They can't. I don't think they can. I don't think they can raise it. Yeah,
it would literally be US only pricing. Every other country would get to keep which is why their pre-order window hasn't changed.
But they cannot write the US market off like that. Console will fail if they have to.
What I was saying earlier, with it's going to affect everything. When stock runs out for currently stocked consoles, you're going to be looking at a PS5 that costs $700, PS5 Pro that costs $1,000.
No, but it doesn't. I get what you're saying up there, but I don't think it matters because it's going to be about the backlash. It's purely about you told us one price and now you're telling us another. I don't give a shit about what happened. I'm gonna burn your house down. This is bullshit. Like it's that immediate response. There's
just wrong finger pointing there though.
Sure,
they told us a price, and it's not their fault that
how this community behaves.
A Liberation Day that decided that 34% tariffs were.
But we know how this community behaves. If you think anyone's gonna bear the brunt of that besides Nintendo, you're sorely mistaken. There's no winning for them. They can't raise the price. They will be shooting themselves in the face. Like, it's not even in the foot.
I think at most they can raise it $50.
50 is the absolute most. I don't think they can go more than that. I don't think they can
get also anticipate game prices to go up. Games are manufactured in Mexico and Vietnam.
That is definitely that I think will happen.
And because that's, I think,
the only way that another across the board, everyone is going to be affected.
I think you're 100% correct there. And I do think that that's where they can try to make that calculus. It's like every console always from time immemorial, whatever, 19, whatever, has always operated at a loss, right? They're just going to have to operate at a bigger loss and have to make that up with increased software that they can, I think, justify to people to be like, yeah, you're not going to feel that creep in that. You're not going to feel us getting that money back from you because it's not as immediate. Right? You're not paying that extra $150 right at once. You're going to pay $10 extra here, $10 extra there, $10 more there.
I don't think it's going to be $10. I'm anticipating physical games is the baseline to be 100.
I would say 90 to 100.
Which then raises the question of the GTA 6 of it all, where they're like, yeah, GTA should cost $100. Is that going to be like $120, $130 game?
I don't think so. But I don't know.
I don't think so, because they've modeled this all on it costing like $100, and they've made the game like they, the manufacturing.
Yeah, but no one could possibly have anticipated a blanket 20 to 30 to 40% tariff on the places that you make those discs.
I don't know. I think that if Nintendo raises that price by anything more than $50, I think this console will fail, and will fail before it's even out the door. Sure, there will be people who will buy it and who will just call people broke boys for complaining and for not buying it. But Andrew's right. We know that it's like that Nintendo is just reacting. We, the rational ones, know that Nintendo is just reacting. But that doesn't mean that like it's acceptable and that I'm going to pay for it, right? People will be mad at Nintendo, and they'll be mad at them for, yes, breaking their word.
And it's going to be the only story. Like, whether that's just going to become the story. It's Nintendo's fucking the consumer. There is a difference also between, again, I made this point earlier, that this is a start of a generation versus the PS5, the new versions, like you say, without stock. Yeah, the prices are going to go up. Those are just going to affect such a strong degree difference of people. I'm trying to say that
Sony way more, because Sony's already at the point where the sales year to year are going to be dropping off. If all of a sudden your base console costs $700 versus $500, that drop off is going to be so much steeper.
Absolutely. But it's more important they have made a lot of their money, already. Like, yeah, they want to make more. No shit. And yeah, that's bad. I'm not saying it's not going to be bad for Sony, but like
I'm telling you, is everyone needs to go out and buy a PS5 Pro if you want a like decently running console under $1,000 before. I'm expecting the worst though. I'm expecting them to be like, yeah, I'm expecting them to raise the price a lot, and I'm expecting the generation to fail at that point, because as much as I want to play Xenoblade Chronicles X at a better frame rate, as much as I want to play Mario Kart World, as much as I'm going to want to play the Duskbloods, I'm not paying fucking $600 or more for a fucking Switch. Absolutely not. There's no way. There's no possible way I'm spending that much money. I mean, here's the reality of it. We can do a raw statistical analysis here. We have 3 people. I'll still get it, but that's because I already budgeted $600-$700 for a new console this year, alongside accessories, games. So,
but like, I'm not gonna do it. Like, that's too much, and I could stomach. $450 was already expensive, but like, I understand it, and people have
I'd like to point out that $450 is extremely reasonable for the hardware spec and capability.
It's borderline. The
original Steam Deck launched at $600 with less storage.
Analysts were basically expecting $400, and so $450 was a little bit higher. I'm fine with it. And most people will be like, yeah, I think $450 is expensive, but I can stomach it. People were really pissed about the fucking game prices, that'll be sure. But then the whole tariff nonsense. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's, again, could not be launching in a worse time. And
do you think Shinzo is haunting Donald right now?
No, remember I told him he's whispering to him from the spirit world, like, Donarudo-kun, you can do it. Raise the price of the Nintendo Switch.
Do you think Baron is knocking his door down?
All right. I don't know. Is the Nintendo Switch 2 already dead? Long live the Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know. We'll see.
That's why my name is Nintendo Switch 3.
Yeah, already thinking ahead. All right, boys, thanks for joining me. This absolutely went way longer than
I told you it was.
I wanted to. And yeah, Matt, you're correct. As usual.
It's like I was correct about something else too before. We'll wait for the full podcast for my full podcast apology.
I told you it's going to have to be with some serious caveats though, because you're correct and incorrect at the same time.
I still want my apology.
Sure.
I still want the listeners to get the feeling that Matt knew what he was talking about.
All right. I will talk to you boys later. We will see you all next week for the podcast where Mike will be back and he'll be leading us through his extra episode. We should come up with a better name for what those are. But we're talking about racing games, which I do not want to buy a racing game to play and talk about.
Mario Kart's a racing game.
Fair enough. There you go. That's true.
That was my anticipation.
I was thinking maybe I'll play some Twisted Metal on PS Plus.
That's a good call.
Is that a racing game or is that a car destruction simulator? I don't know.
You'll have to wait and see when that episode comes out, a week from the release of this video. Till then, you can support us on all the social medias, here on YouTube, all that jazz. Thanks so much. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Hey.